Welcome to Slackin' Off with Brady Slack.
Welcome to another episode of Slackin' Off. I'm your host, Brady Slack, and today my guest is someone really important to me. I'm actually I don't know how excited she is for this, but I'm excited for this episode. She is someone who has been a part of my life for a really long time. And without further ado, welcome to the episode, my mother, Amy Slack. Thank you for being on, Mom. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
So
hey, Brady,
I'm going to give just a little back. Say that again.
The stuff behind you? What's the stuff behind you?
It's just a soundboard.
Oh, okay.
It makes my background look cooler. That's all it is.
Okay.
I'm gonna say this is gonna be great. I'm so excited for this. Let's set the stage just right. So we were at our cabin a week and a half ago, and I thought my mom was half joking when she said she wanted to be on my podcast. But my wife had made a dessert, and I had made a joke about the dessert. And I posted it on my story, and my mom, I think, was a little embarrassed. And she's like, I need to go on your podcast to set the record straight. I did not raise you like this. And I thought it was a funny joke. I actually got a couple comments on it, and everyone else thought it was really funny too. But so if we don't accomplish anything else today, everyone's going to know that my mom's going to set the record straight and tell everyone how she raised us, why she raised us that way, and everything that I do is not how she raised me, but I don't think we'll get to that conclusion. And I have a list of questions to ask my mom.
Wait.
Here we go, we're setting the record straight.
I did not want to be on your podcast. I just wanted to make sure that people knew I did not raise you to say bad words and to embarrass yourself, I guess.
Sometimes I curse. I learned it from her because my dad doesn't curse.
Whatever. I do not. I'll say an occasional H word. That's it.
You can say hell on the podcast, Mom. I have heard my mother swear more often than my dad. I'll just put it that way. She doesn't swear often. But But we've got a list of questions, and part of this is going to be selfish. Me and my mom have a really good connection. We're really close. We are very similar. We're both very opinionated, and we're very strong-willed individuals. So some of this is going to be very selfish for me, just to kind of, I guess, have individuals understand maybe why I am the way I am based on how I was raised and different experiences that I had growing up, and the way that my parents raised me and my brothers. And other parts of it are, I think it is valuable to understand how people were raised and why they are the way they are rather than what they do. Because you can read lots of books, you can read lots of stories, and I've talked about this with lots of other podcast guests. You can read all the self-help books in the world that you want, but a lot of them just tell you to do the same thing. Get up early, exercise, be kind, work hard. But I think learning why an individual is that way is also very key. And so the first question that I want to start out with actually has a little bit more to do with how you were raised and lessons that you learned when you were younger or growing up. Rather than myself, and this question is gonna lead the conversation. But what lessons did you learn while you were growing up, Mom, that you didn't want to teach us, or what things did you experience that you didn't want me and my brothers to do or experience or grow up understanding?
One of the things that I was raised with is my parents were divorced at a really young age, and obviously, I didn't want you guys to have to navigate that like I had to navigate that. And so I think your dad and I have always worked really hard at just making it work. Whatever it is, there's no option to not make it work. So that's one thing. I think another thing is that I was raised by very incredibly independent and driven people, and that is a lesson that I would love for you to learn. But I think that can also be that's not everything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's balance. Yeah, balance to lots of different things.
Did you and dad did you and dad have a lot, like, were there a lot of issues? Are there a lot of issues? Like, you say that about grandma and grandpa getting divorced at a young age and not wanting, like, when you were young and you guys not wanting to get divorced or not wanting to have those problems. I'm going to be honest, like, if there were problems, we didn't, I didn't know it. We didn't pick up on it. And I feel like you guys, like, you probably had a lot of closed door conversations, but was that like, were there ever big problems? You don't need to say what the problems were, but were there ever big problems?
No, and you want to know why? Because your dad is a saint. That's
He is a
why.
good guy.
He is a dang good dude. And I think
You're
it's
good.
not,
You're really good too. But he is a good guy.
yeah, it's not that there were huge problems. I think he just never wanted, if I ever wanted to, sometimes it would be really nice if he would argue with me because I would just like to see him be passionate about something. But if there was ever any time that we ever argued, and really we do not argue at all, it's
Yeah,
just because he doesn't want to argue. He doesn't want to make it a bigger deal than it needs to be. But I think over everything, we're pretty much on the same page about things. So no, I don't think we've had to. I mean, every marriage is work, right? And every
sure.
relationship is work, whatever you do. But we're successful because we're willing to work hard, and because he's a saint. That's why.
Yeah. No, I can. Yeah, that. No, that's pretty spot on. I just was curious when you said that. What
Yeah, one thing
as
too, though, let me tell you this, Braid, is that we purposely never had those types of conversations in front of you kids. We never
Yeah,
talk about other individuals in front of you kids. We never talked about your coaches in front of you kids. We never talked about things happening in the neighborhood or in the community because that wasn't for your ears to hear. And I think sometimes that's a mistake that people can get into is spouting off their opinions and frustrations about people. And there's always, we had 6 kids, there were always little ears around, and it just
yeah,
wasn't your business and anything you needed to hear. So
yeah. Well, there for those listening, I am the oldest of 6 boys. There's a 15-year gap between me and my youngest brother. I am 27. You can do the math. So sometimes, depending on our conversations, there still are little ears
yes.
around, and even more so with my 2 boys. But no, I can say I appreciate that. I think even myself, I got put into situations where, because I didn't know. Well, I can think of one instance. I had a coach who I really had a hard time with, and mind you, this was a very competitive soccer league. In fact, I couldn't have been older than 15, 14, 15, and
Yeah, you were about
I
that.
I was at a soccer practice, and this individual was from Chile. My parents owned a cleaning company, and so they had enough employees with enough Spanish around me that I understood a little bit. And at one of our practices, this coach said something in Spanish that I understood. I made a comment that I probably shouldn't have made, and he came over and got in my face, and I pushed him. Mind you, I'm 14, 15, and it's a grown man, right? But I think because I didn't necessarily know the situation, and you guys put me into a position where you said you can do hard things, you figure it out. That gave me the ability to look at situations a little differently and try and figure out how I could best overcome that situation and have a better outcome. So I think I appreciate that, knowing what your side of the story is. Now, that being said, what raising us, I mean, raising 6 boys is not, raising 6 kids is not easy, but raising 6 boys, and we were not the easiest kids to be raised. I mean, we're pretty good, but I mean, we're not great. What expectations did you have for us? What desires did you have for us as a mother?
I think you already know the answer to that question. My
Well,
expectations
I
are
do.
incredible.
I think I know the answer, but the listeners don't.
Yes, my expectations are pretty high. Because I said earlier, my parents are very driven. They were very successful in their respective careers, and we didn't do anything halfway ever. That was not even an option. And so for me,
Yeah.
I carried that in with you boys as well, that if you do a job, I can tell you the list of the sayings that I was given. A job worth doing is a job worth doing well. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I mean, all of these mantras, that were a part of my childhood, that's what I was raised with. And so that's what I took into raising you kids as well. And I think too, I know what each of you are capable of. You're my kids, and I know who you are, and I know that you can do anything that you set your mind to. And so when you guys joke about C's get degrees, it like because I know you're capable of A's. So, um, and maybe I'm sure I was a little over the top because your dad's like, oh, whatever, they're good. They're not burning the house down, so they're fine. But I'm like you, I'm really passionate. And so if I'm going to
Yeah.
do something, I'm going to be all in and I'm going to do it.
That's we joke a lot, and it gives our mom heartburn, but we have a good time. It's funny you mentioned some of those sayings. So growing up, for people that don't know us, we had on our garage, on the door leading out to the garage, on the inside of that door, we had. That door it had sayings in vinyl all over the door. In fact, I think I still have a picture of that with sayings like "Go big or go home" and "Remember who you are," and geez, it's been a while since that door was around. I can't remember all of them. Then there was another one too over the stairs going downstairs that said the forest would be very silent if only the best bird sang. And so like all of these sayings took different places in our life and different things that we were doing. And it's just funny that because I still hear Grandpa say some of those sayings, and I can hear his voice when you say some of those sayings. And I think it's like growing up, there was an expectation set, and some of it was communicated verbally and others were not communicated verbally. It's funny, I was preparing for this podcast, and I think my mom was a little nervous. She was nervous, and she just the only request she had was that I didn't embarrass her. And that's funny because her dad is the exact same way, and I am the exact same way. Don't do anything that's going to embarrass you. The name on the front of your jersey is just as important as the name on your back on the back of your jersey. So that's what. Let's see here. Like I said, I've got a list of questions, but what goals or aspirations did you have for yourself that you feel like translated into how you raised us?
Oh, my mom will tell you, I used to sing a song that talked about being a mother. And really I think maybe because I came from a divorced family and that's all I really wanted was to be a part of a family. And it's not that I wasn't part of a family, but we had
Yeah.
2 children, right? There were only 2 of us. And I am a people person. I love the interaction. Like I thrive off of having you boys, everybody come home and just the banter that goes back and forth. I love to just sit and listen and and kind of glean information and things from that. But I always wanted to be a mom. Like that was so important to me. And I always wanted my family to be close and to get along, and I think that still is true today. I want to make sure that we love each other and we support each other no matter what, right? That's just what we do. And so first and foremost, that was always most important to me. And then second of all, I always wanted to be a teacher because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help people. And again, that translates to my personal life as well, and my desires for my children is I want us to be kind and to help people and to really make our mark wherever we are, just make our mark, even if it's small.
Do you feel like there were any goals or aspirations that you had that you gave up or shelved when you became a mom?
Absolutely. I mean, I think right now I'm 50 years old and going back to school to get my master's to be an administrator of education. And I've thought several times, like, what in the heck am I even doing this for? And I'm 50 years old. I'm a grandma. Why am I doing this now? And had I not had so many kids, I could have already been, X number of years
Yeah.
into this career. And so, yeah, I think anytime you make a choice, you sacrifice other things. I would love to be a mother, the very best mother and the very best teacher. And I can't be 100% at both at the same time. When I'm home, I can be a really good mom, and when I'm at school, I can be a really good teacher. And I couldn't do both and do them well like I wanted to, and so we decided, yeah, I would stay home, and we sacrificed a lot for me to stay home and to raise our big family, but I'm so glad I did it the way that we did it. And yeah, I'm 50 years old, and I think what better example to my kids that, yeah, even as a grandma, I can go back to school and I can do hard things and do what I set my mind to. So,
I look at other people that I know that some of the very similar ages, maybe up to 32, 31 years old, other professionals or other entrepreneurs. And it's funny because there's a couple of them that I know that I talk to pretty frequently that aren't married, don't have kids. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but they've definitely chosen a career or a business over that. And I would argue that if I weren't married and didn't have kids, I would probably be at a different place in my professional career than where I'm at now. Not that where I'm at's a bad thing. I'm farther ahead than I ever thought I would be at this time. But why do you think it's hard for people to make that choice between like raising a family or getting married and quote unquote settling down versus pursuing a career or a profession or an ambition?
I don't know that you have to make a choice. It was what I wanted, and it was what your dad wanted, and it was what we as a collective partnership wanted, and so that is the choice that we make. Anytime we do something, we make a choice, and if someone's not married and they don't have kids and that's their choice, fantastic, right? I think we talked about this on Sunday. I'm going to drive in my
Yeah.
lane and roll down the window and cheer you on, like, good job, you go do you. And um, so I don't know that you have to make a choice, but I think we have to be realistic about the consequences of the decisions that we do make, and and be okay with them, because your dad always used to tell you guys, every choice you make is like a stick, and you pick up one end, and that stick may be short and the consequence is going to come up right fast, or it could be a really long stick and that other end of the stick isn't going to come up right now, but one day it's going to come up. And so you just have to be okay with the choices that you do make, and the outcomes of whatever those choices are. And if you choose to have a family, I think you just have to know that there are some sacrifices that you do have to make, just like you're learning right now. You're traveling a lot, so you're sacrificing time with your kids. And
Yeah.
granted, they're 2 and 9 months, so they're not really going to remember that, but there still is a little bit of a sacrifice.
Yeah, no, it totally does. But it like it does affect it. Like even this last trip, Coy would call me every night and just ask me when I was coming home, and that evidently led me to come home earlier than I'd anticipated. It just like that wasn't fun for me, right? So I
Right.
understand that completely. Do you this is going to be a little clickbaity, but I'm interested to know what your thought is. Do you feel like if value was put on the family, or if the family was emphasized a little bit more, and a motherly figure more traditional, if you will, a mother that stays home and a father that goes to work, do you feel like we would have some of the problems that we have in society, whatever those problems might be?
Well, you're talking to a person who chose to stay home, but you're also talking to a person who feels very passionately about women doing the things that they feel like they need to do.
Again, that's why I
So,
wanted to ask.
yeah. So I and education is a great place to see all of these problems that maybe you're talking about. I think there are some problems that obviously could and should be solved at home. I mean, there are just things that just happen at home. But I also applaud every single mom and dad that is out there working their guts out, because I been there, done that, right? It is hard. It
Yeah.
is hard to work. It's hard to support a family. It is hard to, work full time. Now that I'm working full time, it's hard to come home and want to fix dinner and want to sit down and read the books and do the homework with the kids, because I still have one in 6th grade, right? And it stinks. Like
Yeah.
and I'm tired at the end of the day, and so I don't know that every problem would be erased. I think some problems might, but I don't know that every problem would be erased. I think it comes down to where's your focus, right? What are the things that are important to you? And if it's important for you, for your kids to be good citizens and contributors to society and to help one another, then those are the things that you focus on. And if it's important for you that your kids know how to read and know how to do their math, then those are the things that you work on. And if it's important for you, for your kids to not be mean to other people, then those are the things you focus on. Now, I will say, I felt like I focused on those things, and I still got the phone calls that my kids were saying bad words in class, or right? Like, no one is immune. No one is immune. Everybody makes mistakes, and we just learn from them and grow. In fact, our youngest got in trouble at our school. He's in my class, got in trouble with another
You're
teacher
his
at school.
teacher.
But he got in trouble with another teacher, and I made him write an apology note. And she sent me a text and just said, "Thank you so much for having him apologize." And I said, "Well, when we're turds, that's what we do, right? If you're a turd, you apologize. If we make a mistake, we apologize and we move on." And she said, "Oh yeah, I guess I better teach that to my own kids." So I think it's just what do you do? Let's just be nice to people. If we'd worry about our own selves. And so I don't know if I gave you the answer that you wanted, but I think even if parents work, I think they can still raise good human beings who are still going to make mistakes, and you're still going to have problems whether you work or not. So
And let it be known, I was never the one that got the phone call called on. I was
you're
the perfect
right.
child.
No, you just didn't get the phone call.
I just didn't get caught. That's really what it was. I just didn't get caught, and I was a great liar growing up, so
Yeah,
I did
yep.
some really crummy things, and there's a lot of things that I wish I wouldn't have done, but I just did it, and my parents never found out, so that's why I didn't get into trouble.
That's true, and others of them were not as good of liars, and we
Yeah,
we
some of my
could we
brothers
could
are
just
awful
read them like
liars,
a
and
book. Yep.
yeah, that's true though. I was a good liar. Um,
Yep.
why is I know the answer to this, and I know how you were raised and who raised you, but why is education so important to you? What were the foundations that set that standard for you?
Oh my gosh. Well, so my dad was a principal, a teacher and a principal. I had lots of aunts and uncles that were teachers in education, and my grandpa actually was also in education, my dad's dad. And um, and on my mom's side, there were some educators as well, not as many as on my dad's side. But I grew up hearing stories about the Great Depression. Like, Omi was raised in the Great Depression when nobody had anything, and
My great grandma.
my
Omi's my great
y-
grandma.
yeah, and your grandparents' age was, the age, the baby boom. It was all of these,
Yeah.
the children of these people who had suffered and struggled so much. And at the stories that I heard were, you just do whatever you can to make sure that you are in a place where you can take care of your family, and you can do those things that you need to support a family. And so there was never a question that I wasn't going to go to school. There was never I mean, my parents read all the time, always had books. Sometimes it was fiction, a lot of times it
They
was
still do.
nonfiction. Totally, they are voracious
Yeah.
readers. And so in education of any type was just always really, it wasn't ever pushed, but it was just exemplified for me. Like, they were just examples.
Something you
And
did.
so yeah, it was just who we were and it was just what we did. And my mom, even, she didn't finish college right away, but she went back at a later age and finished and was very, very, very successful in her career. And my dad was very, very, very successful in his career. And it kind of wasn't even an option. That wasn't the time. Um, that just wasn't what happened when I grew up. It's just what everybody did, right? It was just the given. When you graduate from high school, you go to college and you get a good education and a good career. And Martha, my stepmom, her first husband was killed in a plane crash, and so that was also a great example to me of you get an education because you never know what is going to happen, and she faced the possibility of having to raise her children, without a husband. And thank goodness she did have a career, and thank goodness that she was educated so that she could just step right into, and she was already teaching at the time, obviously, but she could just step into providing for her family. And again, family is very important to me. And so it was important to me to be able to take over if I had to.
Now, I mean, obviously, it's no secret, at least to me, and by now it shouldn't be a secret to the listeners that education is important to you. And because of that love and the upbringing, I mean, there's no reason to doubt why you chose to go into education. That being said, again, this is kind of a clickbaity, but I'm genuinely curious because I'm far enough removed from the education system, at least in a formal sense, to understand what's going on. And you hear lots of things. With the education as it is right now, what do you think is wrong about the education system? Like what would be some things that you would fix, and what is right? What is being done right? Because we've had these conversations at home too, different things that kind of irk you about things that they're doing with legislation or different viewpoints that some people have. You are an educator, you're in the classroom every day. So what are some of the things that you would want to fix, or some of the issues that you think we face, and then what are some things that are happening that are good in the education system?
Oh, okay. So I will say, um, the thing that I have a hard time with is people making comments and um, trying to do these big movements that are not willing to spend time in a classroom themselves before they try to go out and, change the world. Because your perspective, again, this is one of those things. When you guys used to come home from school and you would tell me about how your teacher hated you and how your teacher did all of this, I took your information and put about that much, credibility to it. Because I like to believe that no human being, goes around and hates little 6-year-olds or little 12-year-olds or little 15-year-olds, right? So I think sometimes parents hear a portion of what happens or a portion of what is happening, and then all of a sudden, they want to go do this movement. Great. Come in the classroom, volunteer in my room, spend some hours, right? Put your money where your mouth is. And then if you really still feel like you've got an agenda to push, fantastic. Are there bad apples in every bunch? There absolutely are. And I hate
Yeah.
that, but that's the reality in any career, right? There's going to be someone that's going to ruin it for everybody else. But I think the thing that is good about education right now, and the thing that I am really passionate about, is it is so important for us to be equitable. And I know that that is also a really hot button issue, but every kid that is going to grow up and be an independent adult should have someone that believes in them and should have someone that is willing to give them whatever they need to help them be successful. And that looks different for every kid. And even kids that come from homes, great socioeconomics, and two parents in the home, and they have everything afforded to them, they still come to my classroom with baggage. And it's my job to try to figure out what that baggage is and find a way to make them be the very best person that they can be. And so I think that is what is right with education. But I think also there are some agendas that are trying to be pushed that aren't the case in all classrooms. They might be in one out of every 30 classrooms, but they're not in all classrooms. But that's what we hear about, right? We hear the squeaky wheel gets the
Yeah.
grease. That's what we hear about.
And I see this with my age, and obviously people that are my age don't necessarily have kids that are in grade school yet, but I tend to see this with other people that I interact with. Do you feel like, again, maybe going back to the question I asked previously about the choice you made to be a stay-at-home mom, do you think what do you, let's see, how do I want to phrase this question? Do you think parents could, in a general sense, take the average, if you will, do better in the home to help their kids succeed? Do you feel like, for the most part, they're doing enough, or do you feel like some of the problems are caused because maybe there isn't enough support at home?
Can't we all do better? Right? We can
Well,
all do
yeah, but
better. So, yeah, I mean, could Sally be on a higher reading level or capable of reading, grade level text if, mom sits down and spends 30 minutes every day? Sure. But the reality is mom might not have 30 minutes every day. And and so as a public educator, yeah, my job is to help pick up the slack as much as I can. Um, yeah, the world could be solved if everybody was, on their A game and was always doing what they were supposed to be doing, when they were supposed to be doing it, where they were supposed to be
sure.
doing it.
But they're
So I
not.
think right. So that's kind of an idealistic question, right? I mean, I think we're humans and we do the very best that we can, and consistency, I think, is more important than trying to be perfect, because none of us are perfect. I am never going to have a perfect day, but if I keep trying hard and if I just keep at it, I think consistency is more important than an expectation that if everybody did everything right, I wouldn't have anything to it. Criminy, if that were the case, I wouldn't have a job, right? There would be no need for me
Yeah.
to be an educator. If everybody taught everything that they needed to know, I wouldn't even have a job. So I think just more consistency in a home, whether you have stay-at-home parents or not. I think every parent can be consistent at something.
And well, I heard a quote. It's been a couple years since I read this quote for the first time, and the quote read something along the lines of aim for perfection, and you will accomplish greatness.
Yeah.
Essentially saying that if you do your best, if you try hard, you won't be perfect. No one is perfect, but you will achieve something great. And I think that's a message that I've kind of always held close, just because of the message of that. Like, we're not going to be perfect. No one is perfect. You can't hold people to a perfect standard because you're not perfect yourself, but you should hold people to a standard. So that's kind of the lesson that I took from that falls in line with that.
Can I just say something else, right?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
we have to be willing to give people grace, right? Like,
yeah,
and if if you do have a standard, like I had an expectation and high standards for you boys, knowing that if that was what we shot for, we'd land somewhere here. But if you don't have any expectations, then that's exactly what you're going to rise to, right? And that
yeah,
happens in our classrooms as well. Like if I can give the kids a target to shoot for, the majority of them are going to hit on it or right around it, right? I mean, that's just the reality. When you give someone a target and they're aiming for something, that's what they're going to shoot for. But if you don't give them anything, they have no they have nowhere to aim, right? So shoot for the moon and land among the stars. Same kind of thing. But when they don't make it, we've got to give people some grace.
okay, so that actually kind of leads me into the question I was going to ask. Again, this is more so of a selfish question than anything else. I didn't finish college, went and got licenses and certifications outside of school, and I know that was an expectation, if you will, that
Yes.
you had for me. And when what was your I know what your outward reaction was, but what was your behind closed door reaction when I said I wasn't gonna. I was gonna stop going to school and I was gonna start a business. What was that reaction that you didn't let me see at that time?
That was it. And you know what? I still have hope that that somehow, some way, you might. And maybe that's just wishful thinking. But again, I'm your mother, and I'm allowed to have those because I think you're going to find your boys are going to do things that you
Sure.
were hopeful that they would do something else as well. Um, Disappointed. I have to say I was disappointed. It still hurts. And I don't know why it's so personal to me. And I think it is because I'm an educator. I'm a teacher, but it is so personal and
Oh, I
it still
failed you.
hurts. You didn't
I
fail me.
failed you.
You know what, Braid? My life, I have learned so much from being a mother. I think more than I could have learned anywhere else. I have learned lots of lessons from being a mother, and one of them is that I just have to be flexible, right? I just got to roll with the punches, and not everything is going to turn out exactly how I wanted to. And yeah, I was disappointed, still hurts a little bit, but it's just because I'm very passionate about education. And I know you're getting education in other regards. And again, I want you to be the very best person that you can be. I want everyone to be knocking your door down trying to have you be their tax person. And I know some of them might be turned off because you don't have a degree. And so it's just me wanting the very, very best for you. That's all.
You and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago. You came over to the house and we talked about this for a little bit. Why though? Like you and I have both talked about it. You've talked about the consequences of what an education can do for you, or more or less what that skill set does for you. But explain why. Like, I understand why, and you and I have had different conversations about some of my brothers and their situations. But why? Like for you, what does that education mean?
I think it means that you are setting goals for yourself and you are trying to accomplish something that is way bigger than you are, and you are willing to do something that is hard and something that's going to push you and test you, because at the end of the day, when we're able to accomplish those things, we feel great success, even if we haven't done it perfectly. We feel huge success when we kind of hit the grind, and we're staying up late and studying, and some of my best times I remember were being in college and being away from home and just having that experience. And I really wanted you boys, first of all, to get out of my house, but second of all, to 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 have those same experiences. That was some of the best time. It was some of the most selfish best times of my life. I didn't have to worry about anybody else except for my school. um, and I learned a lot from just going through that grind. And I want you boys always to just keep working towards something. I want, and that's education to me, whether it's a formal education in college, that is education to me. And college is really important to me, but that's part of what I did in college is that grind, and I worked towards something and had goals, and so that's why.
I think and to add to that, what we talked about a couple of weeks ago was in today's society there are, and studies have shown there are more people that are leaving college due to the fact that they don't feel like it is adding value to their professional career. And I would argue, much to my mother's dismay, that a lot of that is probably accurate. Right. And this is why
No,
I made.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Well, no, I know you're not. I know you're not. We've had this conversation before. However, we've also had the conversation of being able to add a value or have a skill that will be able to provide you with an opportunity to make money. Like in the end, that you go to school to get a job, to get a degree, and that degree will allow you to get a job. And I think right now, what you're going to see in the next couple of years is you're going to see these people who, well, you're really already starting to see it. You're going to see these people who did not go to college because they didn't feel like it added any value to their life, and they didn't really do anything else. They just went and got a job. Maybe that, I mean, that might be just a simple sales job. That might be a management position at a restaurant. You know, it was paying better than what they were making as an hourly worker. But what happens is your hard skill will get you a seat at the table. Your soft skills will continue to increase your position at that table. Or the hard skill will get you a job, the soft skill will get you promoted. And I think your biggest thing was that degree, that education gives you the value and the skill set to be able to be in a position that will provide for your family. That for you, from what I understand, from the way that you raised us, that was your belief. That's kind of how we were raised, was that degree will put you into a position that will be able to provide for your family. And like we see that with Dad and his work. He's been at a job for a really long time. It has provided tremendous opportunity for our family, but it's been a position that he necessarily hasn't really loved. He got put into a position where that was what he had to do 20 some odd years ago, and I will be forever grateful for that. But that's what that accomplished, right? And so I think for you, that is what you wanted to accomplish with us going to school and getting a degree.
And you have to understand, my goal was never for you just to have a seat at the table, because I did see that that's what Dad had. Dad, just
Yeah,
with his job, had a seat at the table. And he is incredibly amazing, right? But
yeah,
when he was in college, he didn't really know what he wanted to do. And he kind
sure.
of got shoved into a direction, and it was like, okay, well, that's what I'll do. And I'm
Let's do this.
assuming that that's what a lot of people do, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't their passion, but it was an opportunity to get a job and provide for a family. But that was never my goal for any of you kids. Getting that seat at the table is just the start. If I could make every single one of you CEOs, I believe that every single one of you is capable of that. I believe that every single one of you is capable of doing incredibly amazing things, but you have to do something with that. I can't do that for you. And that's why I think college is important to me, is just to give you that little, like, okay, here you go. And then
opportunity.
you've got to take it from there. And I feel like in some situations, not all, it's just going to give you a little more of an advantage than perhaps others. Now, look at you, right? You
Yeah.
I still don't even know how all of this has happened. I feel like you have been greatly favored, and I am so grateful for that. But I not everybody is so greatly favored in that. They have other blessings come other ways,
Yeah.
and so it's just kind of an even playing field. I mean, crap, I agree that why should I have to go to college and take a golf class? Other than it's fun and I met a really cute boy in that class, it did nothing for me, right? It did
Uh,
absolutely nothing to
you don't
further
even
my
play golf.
college education. I don't even play golf, right? I did it for the boys. So that was a waste of money. And I agree that is where higher education is falling short nowadays, right? And if we eliminate stuff like that doesn't apply to the majority of the people
The
at
fluff.
college, yeah. But if you have people who are going into physical education, then that would be important to them, whereas it was
Sure.
not important to me. So I feel like higher education could make some adjustments that would maybe draw some of those people back and add benefit to what it is they're trying to do. But I agree with you there that there are some things that need to be adjusted. And the money's gonna make it happen. Believe me.
I agree with that. There's a story really, and this story has stuck with me for a really long time that highlights the conversation that we've just had. One of our church leaders, his name's Ronald Rasband. He gave a story. This had to be, I mean, it was maybe 8 years ago, and I can't remember where exactly I heard this. If it was in a if it was in an individual congregation or if it was amongst the entire church, but he gave a conversation about education, how important education was. And he himself did not finish college. He was in his senior year of college, and then he met an individual that owned a company and asked him to come work for this company. And that stuck with me for a long time because I really understood that it's not really college is not the end. College is a means to the end, and the opportunities that you are provided will give you that opportunity to experience that success. And I think in my life, like you mentioned, there have been opportunities that I have taken advantage of that I think from surface level will appear I have rolled the dice and gotten lucky, but from the underlying facet, and this happens with a lot of very successful people, is there's one or two breaks or opportunities that they're given, that they have to make the choice to take advantage of that opportunity. And I will be the first to say that although I feel like I am lucky for one or two of those breaks or one or two of those connections, I still had to do the work.
That's exactly
And we were
right.
having this conversation with my brothers, and maybe the example that I've set for them is, as and again, we joke, he's get degrees and finishing college and this, that, or the other. And I will publicly say that was, I should have done a better job as someone who people look up to, because again, for their situations, college might do them well in certain situations, but I don't think they understand, and a lot of people don't understand all the work that goes in on the back end to create the success out of that lucky opportunity. And everyone is going to get one or two of those lucky opportunities. But if you're not prepared to take advantage of that opportunity, you won't experience the success. And if you don't put in the work when that lucky opportunity comes, you won't experience the success. And so again, like, I don't think a lot of people have seen the sacrifice, the hard work, and the amount of stress and tears and just general concern or uncertainty that has followed those one or two lucky breaks.
And I totally agree with that. And had it been up to each of you boys in our home, we would have had 6 NFL football stars, right? I mean, like if
Yeah.
you had followed the dreams that you wanted when you were younger, all of you would be I'd be living the high life if all of you were, making millions and millions and millions
Like
of
the
dollars.
Kelsey's mom.
Yes, right? But, I secretly, and this is just my personality, it was like, "Oh, my heck, my kid's got this crazy dream," right? That I knew
Yeah.
statistically every single one of you wasn't gonna end up being an NFL star, either for your, athletic prowess or whatever else it was.
Not big enough.
I
I'm not big enough.
That's right.
I'll admit it.
That's right, that's right. Well, you could have been a kicker, right? And you had some really good
Oh yeah.
opportunities,
I,
but
I mean, I had the opportunity. I just didn't pursue it.
yes, but I think that's exactly the point I'm trying to make is you have to be, and I'm gonna use the word educated enough, um, and that's not even really the word that I wanna use, but you have to be in tune enough to understand when those chance opportunities come, because Elder Rasband was he was a neighbor of ours, and he was very, very, very successful because somebody
Very.
took a chance on him. Somebody took a chance on him, and he was in a position where he was in tune enough, smart enough, whatever it was, willing to take that chance to get him a seat at the table, right? And that was his seat at the table. And then what he did after that was the
It
skills
was up to
that
him.
that he was forced to learn.
Yeah.
And that's all I want for you kids is I want for you and everybody, right? Everybody to do their very best. But I've got to make sure that all of my kids understand how to recognize when that chance comes because it comes for all of us. Some of us just ignore it, right? And
Yeah.
so I want you boys, especially because you're the ones I'm in charge of, to understand when that chance comes your way. And
No, that's good.
I have to say, Brady, from a really young age, I've wanted to tell this story about you for so long because when you were in kindergarten, I've told you this 100 times. We went to your first parent teacher conference, and cute Mrs. Leffler, she was so concerned because you were so confident, and she had a really, really hard time with that. And she just kept saying, "What are we going to do about his confidence? Well, he feels like he can do all of these things, and he feels like he knows all of what are we going to do about that?" And your dad and I left that conference thinking, "What do you mean? What are we going to do with that?" And the conversation that we had all the way home is, "No, we're not going to have a conversation with him because the world is going to knock you at your knees enough. I don't need to be the one to do that." And so my job is to let you boys dream your dreams and to support you as much as I can, to provide you with all of the facts and the abilities and whatever it is that you need. And the world is going to teach you plenty. I don't need to knock your dreams. And so I know that with or without college, all of you are capable of doing all of those things. I just want to give you every advantage that I can, as every other parent does.
At this point, like things have changed quite significantly from when we were in kindergarten, or from when I was in kindergarten, and maybe the ideas or the aspirations that you had then are different now. But right now, what are things that you wish we accomplish professionally or spiritually or in our families? What are some of those things that you hope we're able to accomplish? And or I guess the better question would be, who do you hope we are, professionally or spiritually or in our families, as fathers, as husbands? Um, who do you wish we are, or what do you wish we? What expectations do you have for us now?
I
And have
hope
they changed?
that No, never changed. Never changed. I hope that you are happy, and I hope that you are successful, not in terms of money, although money sometimes makes things a little bit easier. It's not the answer to everything, but we certainly didn't have a ton of money, when you were growing up, and I think we lived a very happy life.
Yeah.
But I want you to be successful in the fact that I want you to feel like you are contributing and that you are doing a good job and that you can come home at the end of the day, whether you're making 100,000 or 300,000, and feel like you have just rocked it. And I want you to, whatever your family looks like, I want you to love big, and I want you to, it makes me a little emotional, um, just to support each other and to help each other. And yeah, just to have peace in your life. No matter what's going on around us, there's lots of crazy things. And I just want you to be peaceful and to be happy, and to feel like you can do whatever it is that you want to do, um and obviously be right with God. That's really important to me. I don't want to bring up religion or anything like that, but that's who we are, right? I mean,
You
it's who
should have
we
listened to
are.
the
And
last podcast episode.
oh, I didn't. Sorry. I didn't want to hear any F words.
Well, it hasn't. No, that there's no F words in that one. It hasn't been
Okay.
released yet. That one's gonna be
Okay.
that one will be the one before this one. It was with a really good friend, mentor Cody. But I mean, we talked a lot about God, because that's who we are.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
who we are.
It is who we are. And I just want you to be happy and love your families, and I just want us to support each other, right? We can't pick our family and we can't pick our hearts. So we just have to breathe it in and do what we can to help each other.
They're high tasks. They've always have been. There's been lots of expectations set. Again, like I said, some of them have been expressed verbally, and some of them have not. And I do want to take the time to tell you, and obviously, Dad. Hopefully he listens to it. I don't know. Maybe they don't listen to it, but thank you for being good examples. It's fun to take what you and Dad did and now try and be the example or set the tone for my two boys. And so I do appreciate it. I love you guys a lot, and hopefully hopefully it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be. I feel like it was a great conversation. There's a lot of good stuff in here.
Yeah, well, I feel like it was a good conversation too. I thought it could go one of three ways. He's either going to humiliate me,
No.
right? Or he's going to ask me questions that I have no idea the answers to. Or
She thought I was going to ask you questions about. We can ask questions about taxes or investments or.
I got nothing for you. I've got nothing for you for that. Anyway, you will find that being a parent, sometimes being a human being is a thankless job, right? And
Yeah.
I got a text the other day from one of your brothers, and it was very kind and very complimentary. And I don't know if there were conversations somewhere else, but it was really out of the blue. And it was one of those parent paydays. And this is another one of those parent paydays, is to have this conversation with you and to see you doing good things. I just want you guys to do
I
good
try.
things and be good human beings. I know you do. You're doing a great job. I'm
I
proud
still
of you.
might be a good liar, though.
No, there's no need, right? No need.
We try. I thought of something else, but I'd forgotten about it. Oh no, I didn't forget about it. It's funny, and we'll end on this, and I hope there is no offense taken to this because I say this in the highest regard. I find myself very often in groups of people where when I need advice on how to scale my business, what investments to make, when to make them, how to make more money, how to become more profitable, my parents are not the people that I go to.
That's right.
But when I have a problem and need to know how I can become closer to God, or when I want to know how to become a better parent or a better husband, when I want to know how I can serve people better or how I can fulfill a church calling better, my parents are the first people that I look up to, and I hope you take that in the highest regard because I mean it, and I'm very appreciative of that. And before I get any more emotional, we will end the podcast. Listeners, there's a lot of good stuff in here. Maybe not so much on the business, but again, referring back to the previous podcast with Cody Jefferson, sometimes the biggest KPIs don't have anything to do with numbers. Education is very important. It's a school setting that I have a problem with, but we won't go there now. You guys got double the slacks today on Slackin' Off. Thank you, Mom, for being a host, and to everyone else, I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You bet, bud. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Slackin' Off with Brady Slack.